Hey y'all, grown black folks talk on a very, very warm spring day in San Francisco, and we are out on the climb again. I had to take a day off and figure out what was going on with my shoes and make some adjustments, but we're back. I want to talk about something today because again, we're going to change gears from some things that happened last week. A lot of the things we argue about really have to do with us being stuck in a pool of ignorance. Now, I don't know how I'm going to condense that yet from the title, but that's what I want to talk about. In a capitalist society, some people come to adulthood, young adulthood, 18s, 19s, knowing that there are three ways to make a living in a capitalist society. Whereas in our community, it's very common to be struggling to learn of and master one. The one way that we know about that college and trade school, and to a point high school, prepares us for is to have the mindset of working for someone else. In other words, the mindset of having a task put in front of us, completing it according to specifications, and turning it in. That's work, but that's also every high school and college and middle school and elementary school assignment that you've ever had. None of those encourage creativity. None of those get you practical results, which is also why a lot of black young people begin to check out of school at a certain age because they don't see any results. They don't see anything tangible coming from them taking orders from other people who have things for them to do, but they produce no tangible results. In a way, the black young person who's asking those questions is the person most likely to benefit from knowing right then, usually starts around middle school, the two other ways there seriously are to make a living, which are starting a business, in other words, working for oneself and then at a later stage employing others and profiting from their work, and also investing, which is to assess existing businesses and being able to then assess them to determine whether or not they should be invested to participate in their growth. Those are all legitimate and legal ways to make money. Now, there are illegal ways and legal ways to do both, all three, but these are all legal ways. But in our community, we don't get the knowledge early enough so that at the same time we come to age to want to date and mate, or even to make a life for ourselves alone, we only have 1/3 of the knowledge that we need, and we spend a great deal of time arguing with the other party about why they are not doing what they're supposed to do. When both of us are talking about the same pool of not understanding. If you were college educated, though, you see this in the data between black men and women. You have been taught to take in more complex information. So if later in life you find out about business and investing, you have more tools to bring to it in terms of learning about it, in terms of being in the habit of taking courses about it. Whereas men, on the other hand, sometimes will turn to doing business much earlier because they tend to be more learn by doing, learn by example, as opposed to passively studying it. So there can be success, but what tends to happen is getting it out the mud takes time. Studying how to do it takes time. So we are very impatient with each other. What I've come to say is, after you've heard this video, you don't have to be ignorant. At any time that you discover this, you can work on it. Now, most of us are going to end up getting a job coming out of college, or coming out of high school, or coming out of trade school. There's nothing wrong with that. But the earlier you know, the sooner you can take a little bit of what you have and begin to support ways 2 and 3. Most of the people who are making big money in the world are doing 2 and 3. The other thing about 2 and 3, they do not require that you be a certain height, weight, or age. If this is working, you can succeed in number 3, no matter what condition you're in. You don't have to be in the perfect position if you know how to do e-commerce. Kind of hard to do without good eyesight. So that's not absolute, but there are ways. Those allow you maximum freedom to be able to do other things in life. Attend to your family. If you attend to your family, attend to yourself. And if you understand travel, and then you kind of get the idea that the United States and its high cost of living is not the only game in town, nor is it the only place that you can have a beautiful life, then you really begin to look at it. Because I was thinking about this because I know a lot of people in Latin America who are on my writing platform, and they're out there getting their whole lives. They don't have to count their money in USD. High versus the peso, Bitcoin versus the peso. They're getting their whole lives. And, I think of the peso because that's Mexico right next door, but there are other measures. Of course, places like Venezuela, literally people are living their whole lives because their dollars, their equivalent to the dollar, are not worth much because of rampant, ridiculous inflation of the type we have not yet seen here in the United States. So they found a way, and as the price of Hive wanders up and down, let's say Hive goes to $5 or goes to $10, they will be upper middle class suddenly because of the work they've already done. Whereas in the United States, Hive going to $5 or $10 for most of us is not going to budge our position, but it pays some bills. Hive pays a few more bills at $10, and at $1 than it does at 10 cents. I can tell you that. But it doesn't cause that kind of life change. But that just tells you the cost of living in other places is much lower. Now, would you want to live there? Well, you got to travel and determine that. But see, some communities begin their lives, people begin their lives knowing there are options for doing things that are not common. But at the moment that you get the knowledge, the options become available to you. And here I am. There are 3 ways to earn a living. Having a job is only one of them. So we sit around arguing about whether people have jobs, if you keep jobs. That's important. 3-leg table is more stable. But there's also other ways. Successful business, successful investing. And once you realize that you can do a mix of 3, then the whole conversation about a household can't live on one income. That's true. But one person can have all 3 at the same time. Or 2 people who are educated can have 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 15 and 20. And even if they're small, that's something. Just a thought, y'all. Just a little bit to kind of change the situation. Because we don't continue to have arguments about protecting who's getting stuff done, and what kind of man is the best. A lot of this has to do with arguments about who has certain knowledge and who doesn't. I'm just out here today, evening the game a little bit while we're on the clock. All right, y'all have a good day now.